thanks guys for coming to hang out with me. This is going to be our astrology reading for Devon Franklin and his now wife, Maria Catillo. Those of you who are thinking that you may recognize this man just by looking at him, I want to confirm that this is the ex-husband of Megan Good. As you know, Megan Good and her ex-husband got divorced, so we're both really involved with the church. And when they were dating, that was a huge theme in the relationship. And Megan Good has since remarried. Megan Good and Devon Franklin finalized their divorce in 2022, and they attributed their divorce to irreconcilable differences. Okay, they said they were growing apart. You know, neither party was really trash talking the other or bad mouthing the other. They basically admitted that they're separated for 4 months, and you know, during that 4 months, they decided to move ahead and finalize the divorce. They acknowledged that, simply put, they had become too different, and they were so different now that the relationship required that they be somebody else in order for them to be happy. It's almost like they got caught up in acting happy instead of being happy, and there wasn't really much in the relationship that was making them happy anymore. You know, it was just like the idea of being married, but they weren't really getting the fulfillment from the relationship. So they slowly started growing apart. Instead of staying together and being miserable together, they decided it was not worth that much of an investment to just choose to be miserable. And thank you so much for liking the live. I appreciate it. And thanks to you guys that are just joining in. Thanks for being a part of this live discussion. So they decided it wasn't worth it to go ahead and be miserable together, and it was better for them to just go ahead and get divorced. So in 2022, they got divorced. We're now in 2025, and he is getting remarried. So a little bit about their relationship before I get into the astrology chart reading of the two of them. I did a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, and one of the things that stood out to me is their age difference. Again, this is not good or bad, it just is. But there is quite a large gap between them in terms of their age difference, okay? He is 46 years old, right? And she is 39 years old. So typically, you know, when there is like a 10-year or more age difference, people tend to freak out about that. You know, even though it's very common for, you know, older men to marry younger women, but I know some people have very strong ideas about age gaps. My philosophy is, as long as you're happy and everybody in the relationship is treating each other with respect and love and the relationship is safe, it doesn't matter to me what the age difference is. Also, as long as both people are, you know, adults, you know, as long as, you know, they're mature and they're of age. You know, a 29-year-old woman has fully developed her brain capacity, which, you know, for all of us, that happens at age 25. So her being 29, she's fully developed as an adult. And he's 46, so he too is fully developed as an adult. So if they don't have a problem with the age difference, then I think everybody else should get on the same page, because, you know, ultimately they're adults and they can choose for themselves, you know, what age gap they're comfortable with, and 17 years is what they're comfortable with. People used to talk a lot about the age difference for Jay-Z and Beyonce, but I think even their gap isn't as wide as this one. So maybe Jay-Z and Beyonce set the stage for other couples to get comfortable with the age difference in their relationship, because sometimes, you know, you are gonna fall in love with somebody who's much older than you. Sometimes your soulmate is much older than you, and God brought you this person so you could get over your hang-ups about the fact, you know, about like judgment and criticism and, you know, like being small-minded, because all of that isn't really reality. Like, how old a person is has nothing to do with how they're going to treat you. If a person is treating you well and they're 20 years older than you, who cares if they're 20 years or 30 years older than you, if they're making you happy, if they're treating you well, if they're giving you access to the very best life that you can have. A lot of us have been brainwashed into believing that people needed to be the same age as us, the same background as us, the same culture as us, the same color as us, the same culture as us. Like, all that is brainwashing. All that is just like small-mindedness. Like, we don't realize it at the time because when we're raised that way, we're not questioning. But I'm hoping that in the future, humans just question some of these messages that we received about who's deserving of your love. Because if you're an adult and they're an adult and you're safe and you're comfortable and you love each other, who cares if you're 17 years apart or 15 years apart or 30 years apart? I mean, I'm looking at their picture right now. They don't even look like they're 17 years apart. They look good together. And look at her face, like she's beaming. She's obviously very happy. Personally, I always go to the woman to see how she's being treated. And granted, it's her wedding day. She's going to put on a good face. But obviously, a 29-year-old woman is not going to agree to marry a man that's 46 if he was not bringing, to her some of the things that she needs to feel safe and secure in the relationship. So if she's happy, then I think all of us need to move on from that conversation about the age, because age is just a number. It doesn't mean anything ultimately. Some people can be 60 years old and still acting like teenagers, okay? I've met some grown people that are some of the most emotionally immature people in the world. And I've met young kids that are 10 years old that have more wisdom than 30-year-olds. It's not about the age, it's about the development, the emotional development, psychological development, spiritual development. It's about the qualities, the maturity that the person has absorbed over their life experiences, okay? Now, let's get into a little bit of their history. These two were dating from what I understand, they were dating for a year before they got engaged, okay? Devon Franklin and Maria Catillo's love connection started a year before the engagement. They were introduced by a mutual friend who thought that they would be a perfect match. And this is why this mutual friend thought to bring them together. The relationship quickly evolved into something serious, and both of them have confirmed that they've built a relationship on commitment, on being intentional about what their goals are, and basically like being serious about the title that they give each other. One time, Devon Franklin was on the red carpet and he was asked about her, and he said that's his girl, and he added that to him calling somebody my girl isn't just like a casual thing or a statement that you throw around. To him, it's really given significance to this person beyond a fleeting moment. So even him saying that means that he takes dating and relationships very seriously. He's probably the type of guy that dates to get married. So this whole time he was probably looking for his wife, because he doesn't just want to be dating and wasting time. So right away, there was a lot of intentionality behind their dating. He's also a very religious and spiritual person. You guys may remember that. I believe he's like a leader in the church, or at least he was when he was married to Megan Good. I believe he had a leadership position in the church when they were married. So he's a man of faith, and he's a man who's very devoted to his faith. And typically those types of guys, again, are not dating just to be like intimate with a million women. They're dating to find their queen, their one woman that they're going to claim, the one person they're going to marry, the one person they're going to grow old with. So because of his kind of religious values, I'm sure getting divorced from Megan Good was a very difficult situation for him and also for her, because it sounds like they shared similar spirituality. So it's really nice that he was able to find somebody else after that, okay? So now let's fast forward to 2024. In 2024, he tricked her into believing that she was going to the Ritz-Carlton in Maui for a photo shoot. So she showed up decked out, ready for her photo shoot, only to find out that that photo shoot was her proposal. So he gave her a heartfelt proposal on a cliff overlooking the ocean. And he said that finding her has been one of God's greatest blessings in his life. And he described his proposal moment as nothing short of magical. She, Maria Castillo was overwhelmed and joyful. And she basically said the same thing as him, that she's still in awe to know that she's going to be spending the rest of her life with this incredible man in this kind of dream come true proposal that he gave her. Okay. Diva fairy tale, but it looks like I'm sorry, let's try that again. Diva Fairy Life 927 said religious and spiritual don't go together. It does for some people, you know. For some people it does go together, and for some people it doesn't. You know, I know we're in the age of Aquarius, and in the age of Aquarius, people like boxes. You know, it's like you're a boy or a girl, you know, you're rich or you're poor, you're black or you're white, you know, you're religious or you're spiritual. I think everybody's relationship with spirituality and religion is different, and I won't presume to know like how people experience it. But for me, a spiritual person is somebody that lives their belief system out loud, not just someone that follows the rules given to them or prescribed to them by their religion. And I don't know this man enough to assume that he's only doing this to follow rules and not doing this because he believes it. So that's why I don't get into the minutiae of that. But he can, you know, that's between him and God. I'm staying out of that. Okay. So moving on to their proposal. So again, it was magical, just as described by him and her, and they both really loved that experience. Okay. So 2024, they got engaged. Fast forward to 2025, a year later, right? They tie the knot in a deeply spiritual ceremony lakeside at Casa Lago in Beverly Hills, rather than, you know, seeing the wedding as really like them starting their life together. They described really the wedding as the launch of their shared faith-filled journey. So you can tell that from the very beginning that faith is a huge part of their connection. It's a huge part of their bond, and it's a huge part of their love. So they don't, you know, a lot of times when people get married, they think the wedding is like the prize. Okay. Some people approach the idea of getting married like it's a prize. Like, oh, I've been dating this person for, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, 5 years, 3 years, and getting married is like the final destination. It's the prize. And people who engage in conscious dating, you know, people who spiritually understand the purpose of God bringing a person into your life, and you know, sharing this special energy with this person and you being able to bond with that person, people who truly understand that everything is spiritual and that spirituality is really here to guide your path, they see, you know, relationships a little bit more deeply. So marriage then becomes less about the prize that you get after you've dated, but more like of a commitment ceremony to publicly acknowledge your desire to walk together, you know, both physically and spiritually until the end of your life together, which is a very different take on marriage than what most people share. Okay. So they both shared that. By the way, if you haven't seen their wedding photos, they are truly stunning. They're so beautiful. I mean, they're so beautiful that even I was just like, oh my God, I want to get married again. Of course, to the same person, you know, because these pictures are so beautiful. I just wanted like, it made me like dream a little bit about the idea of having like another like wedding photo shoot, because honestly, if you haven't seen it, just Google it. These pictures will take your breath away because there's such like natural energy between them. It's very peaceful and serene, the environment. It's not unce, you know, they're standing in grass. It's very like down to earth, but also so elegant. Okay. The gown, as you can see, is stunning, and he's wearing a sharp, you know, Armani suit. You know, it's just like timeless elegance, and everything seems very intentional. Nothing feels over the top or dramatic. It feels simple, but yet like, I don't know, yet intricate. It's giving simplicity, but it's also giving like details. It's giving beauty. And then I've seen some shots of the party that they had, the celebration after the wedding, and it just seemed very relaxed. People were dancing. It felt more like a party, like less stuffy. I love to see weddings where people are having a good time, because then I know they're not putting too much on it, because honestly, it's just a day. Okay, it's the beginning of your life. It's just a day. You want to be having a good time. It shouldn't be the most stressful part of coming together. Okay. Another thing that happened with them is that their reception, as I mentioned, was a nice blend of their culture together. You know, it was like infusing the storybook wedding into this like beautiful history of them, like, and their cultures coming together. As you know, he's African American, she's from the Dominican Republic, so they're brought together, the African American culture, Dominican culture, to be able to celebrate their wedding together. The food, the music, the traditions, basically emphasizing African heritage, Dominican heritage. And as you all know, everybody's African because we all have African roots. So when you bring that together, it's going to be a lot of partying. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of pizzazz, a lot of energy. You know, it's going to be like lively. You know how we get down when we get down. And then the guests, of course, wrote them beautiful notes, you know, scriptures, from the Bible in their guest book. They had a very soulful experience. It was playful, it was fun, it was spiritual, it was traditional, perfect, okay? Now, here are some of the themes in their relationship that makes this work for them. And once I'm done speaking about their connection, I'm going to move on to do their astrology reading. So the thing about him being divorced, you know, Devon Franklin being divorced before he married her, is that he had life experience under his belt. He knows what it's like to invest your all into a relationship and it not work out. I think a lot of times people who are divorced can approach marriage from a more sober head than people who've never been married. And there's something strong about people who are divorced and remarried, because they understand it's going to take a lot of work. And they understand that they're going to have to be invested. So they approach it very, very differently. Him having survived that divorce with Megan has really renewed also his vision, his clarity about what he's looking for in a marriage. Since he's already failed at it, now he might be more fine-tuned into what he needs and what he doesn't need. Another thing is emotional healing. Anybody who's gone through a divorce knows how difficult it is to bounce back from there. Even if you divorce the person because you were relieved, even if it's just like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done, it is still a difficult thing to go through a divorce, you know, because it's like 1 minute your life is set up one way, and then the next minute your life is completely different. You're living in a new place. You've got a new name. You know, you're separating assets. You're rebuilding your life. You're making new connections. The other thing that sucks as a girl is that when you go through a divorce, a lot of the couples that you used to hang out with that were married, a lot of them are going to switch up on you, because honestly, a lot of married couples don't like hanging out with single people. You know, like a lot of married girls don't like to bring single girls around their husband. Like, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Okay? A lot of married girls prefer hanging out with married girls, and they do not like to hang out with single girls. They don't want to bring single girls around their husband. And also, like, with regards to the lifestyle, like, single girls are still like out on the prowl. They're trying to go out clubbing. They're trying to go out to the bar. They're trying to go out drinking. You know, they're dating. They're having this whole other world. And married women are not interested in that world anymore. They're focused on their family. They're focused on their work. They may have kids. They're focused on their kids. They're focused on their future. It's just very different priorities. It's not good or bad. I'm just saying it's a lifestyle change. So getting divorced also brings with it a huge transformative lifestyle change that you have to accept. So the grief associated with divorce is not just that the relationship is ended. Sometimes the friendships also with that relationship end. You know, the lifestyle ends. You know, the car that you used to drive may have changed too. You know, there's so many things that change when you go through a divorce. So he definitely had to invest some time into healing himself from that divorce before getting ready again to dive back out there into a new relationship, okay? Charity Hopper is asking, what about a single mom who's just about their kid and not the single life? Yes, a single mom who's just about their kid and not about the single life is probably gonna be the type of woman that a married woman is more comfortable being friends with than a woman who has never been married or is not married and is not looking to get married. You know, as somebody who has experienced this, I know this happens for a fact. I'm not saying it just to say it. You know, when you get married, your relationships change. The same thing happens when you become a mom or a dad. It's just a lifestyle, you know, guides your process. You know, when you become a mom, your life is completely different. Your girlfriends who don't have kids or who have never had kids or who are not interested in children, you will notice that if there's no effort put towards them meeting you halfway on your new lifestyle, you're going to pull apart. The relationship is going to pull apart. Over time, the relationship is going to fall apart because suddenly you have a whole new life. And it's not because women with kids think they're better with women without kids. It's that women with kids have no time. They're 24/7 watching after a little person that they're responsible for keeping alive. So whatever time women without kids have to like gossip, go shopping, you know, entertain themselves, like all of that time now when you become a mom gets rerouted to your kid. Now, I'm not saying that women with kids don't need to have a life of their own. I'm saying the focus of your life is now about another person. And a woman who has herself as the focus of her life is going to be a very different woman from a woman whose focus is another person. And that's kind of what happens when you get married. And that's the same thing that happens when you have kids. This is why oftentimes women socialize around their social connections. Married women like to be friends with married women. Single women like to be friends with single women because single women obviously don't want to be hanging out with women that are always talking about their kids, women that don't want to leave the house, you know, women, they consider these women boring. Okay, single women typically consider these women boring because single women are trying to be out there like looking for their person or just out there having fun if they don't want to get married, you know. And married women and women with kids live a very, very different lifestyle. So when you get divorced, your lifestyle rather changes and you have to evolve. You have to develop a new identity. And it's not easy, whether you're a man or a woman, it's not an easy thing. But I admire people who are willing to live in their truth and take that challenge head on. Like he decided that it was worth it to me because it was worth it rather to him because he didn't want to keep living a lie. He felt like his marriage to Megan Good was feeling inauthentic. He was no longer happy in that marriage, and he didn't want to keep pretending that the marriage was happy when the marriage truly was not happy anymore. He didn't care about holding on to that title of being married. What he wanted was to be happy. He wanted to be in a happy marriage. And even though he was happy in the marriage with Megan at the beginning, things changed and they got to a point where they weren't happy anymore. Because you have to keep in mind, he and Megan got married when they were very young. You know, when you get married when you're very young and you don't yet know what all you're looking for, what all you want, what all you need, it can be very easy for marriage to be a disappointing experience. Because you go into it with some false ideas about what you're going to find. You go into it with a lot of fantasy, okay? And when the fantasy doesn't live up to the reality, that's when the heartbreak starts. Because you haven't had enough time to clarify who you are, what you want, what you need. You're still growing up yourself, and you're doing that with somebody else. And sometimes people don't grow in the same direction. Sometimes people grow apart. So that's what happened to Megan Good and her ex-husband. Now, the transformational aspect of the relationship is that she too has gone through her own like growth, you know, and her own spiritual development too. So the two of them came to this relationship having gone through a lot of healing together, is what they reported. So the relationship felt very harmonious from the get-go, which, you know, those of you single ladies, this is what I would advise you. When you're looking for a man today or a woman today, find you somebody who is invested in their healing work. Because marriage is hard. Okay? Relationships are hard, and marriage is especially hard because there is a contractual agreement to it. You know, when you're dating somebody and you decide that you don't like them anymore, or they're annoying you, they're irritating you, you don't want to be with them anymore, you can just ghost them, or you can stop calling them, or you could send them a text to break up with them, or you can go out with them and break up with them. All I'm trying to say is you can get out, okay? You can get out that same day. If you don't like them today, you can get out today. When you're married and you don't like them anymore, getting out isn't so easy. It's a whole thing. And the whole thing is a lot harder than the actual marriage, you know? You got to email, message the DMV to change your name. You got to let the government know that you're going to be filing your taxes differently. It's a whole thing. It's a lot of work. So when you get into that kind of union with somebody who is not interested in working on themselves, there is no amount of healing energy you're going to bring, love energy, compromise energy, generosity energy, understanding energy you're going to bring to the marriage that's going to make the person go, you know what? Let me meet you halfway. You're right. You're right. Let me do this work. No, both people have to come to the relationship wanting to work on the relationship because it is hard work. It's hard work to put up with another person, period. But for some reason, because all of us have been brainwashed by Hollywood, we think that when you get married and you get to wear that white dress and that ring, that means everything is easier. Everything is perfect. The marriage is the destination, and everything after that should be smooth sailing because I married my soulmate. It's going to be perfect because we've been brainwashed and we forget that relationships take work. And it doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. It could be the relationship with your kid. Okay? The relationship with your kid takes work. The relationship with your husband takes work. The relationship with your wife takes work. The relationship with your best friend takes work. The relationship with your mom takes work. You get what I'm saying? Humans are challenging. Okay? We all have our quirks, then we have our moods, and we have our issues. It's just a whole lot. So when you're doing partnership with someone who cannot self-reflect, who's incapable of accepting their shortcomings, who cannot admit when they made a mistake, who's not willing to be mindful of another person's comfort and need, and who is still very much so involved in a marriage by thinking like they're in a marriage, but their mindset is still on themselves. It's still a singular mindset, but they're in the marriage. You're going to have some problem. Because when there are issues in the marriage that need to be worked out on, they're not going to be able to join hands with you to figure things out. They're going to leave you hanging to figure things out. And that's an awful place to be in a marriage with someone who's not willing to work on the marriage because they don't want to work on their issues and the issues that they bring to the marriage, okay? Miss Foodie for Life said, I'm married and I love him and I will fight for this. 10 out of 10, I do not recommend. Yes, Mrs. Foodie is spilling the tea. She said 10 out of 10, I do not recommend. Is that what you really meant, Mrs. Foodie? I think a lot of it depends on who you married. I think a lot of it is the choice that you made about who you married. And again, how willing is that person to work on themselves? Because if that person is not interested in character development, self-development, if that person does not see you as a person that God brought into their lives so you can train them on how to become a better version of themselves, you're never going to be happy in that marriage. Because when you bring up issues in the marriage that need to be worked on, they're going to see you as being in an adversary kind of role. They're going to see you as antagonistic, like you're the problem, when really you're their healer and their teacher. That's what marriage is. When you're evenly yoked, the person that you're married to is both your teacher and your healer. But when you're unevenly yoked, and you're not married to the person that you're supposed to be married to, whenever that person tries to teach or heal, you're going to have an issue with them. Because every piece of feedback that they offer you for your own self-development and improvement, you're going to misinterpret as them trying to be passive aggressive, them trying to be mean, them trying to tear you down, them not appreciating you, because it's all me, 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 me. You know, a lot of you guys think marriage is still me, 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 me. You get in marriage because you think it's about your agenda. You think this person is here to be on your timeline. So when this person is saying, hey, this thing that you're doing, I don't like it. I don't like how it makes me feel. Instead of doing this, can you do that? Oh, World War III. What do you mean? What do you mean? I worked hard for this. I do this for you. I do this for you. I do this for you. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because they don't want to hear your opinion. They're just there to be validated. They're not there to work on themselves. They don't think marriage is a place to work on themselves. They think marriage is a place where they come to get validated. So when they're in a marriage and that person's not giving them their validation, it's a problem. Because you chose me because I was perfect for the job. You chose me because I'm your soulmate. So what do you mean there's something wrong with me? What do you mean I'm doing this wrong? No, I'm perfect. And that's how we get into a divorce situation. Because people can no longer communicate, people can no longer work together, people can no longer collaborate. So then they stop fighting and they start lying and they start pulling apart from each other. And then eventually that smile turns into a frown and then people have to go their separate ways. So the other thing that I love about people who've been divorced is that they understand that marriage is about partnership. Because they've already failed at partnership before. So they get what it takes, you know? With these two, they basically admitted that their relationship isn't just about avoiding struggle, you know? It's about making joint decisions and celebrating their joys together and their challenges together. And they feel like something deeper and greater than themselves is what this marriage story is about for them. You know, it's about emotional resilience. It's about really responding to the calling of partnership. Okay? When you respond to the calling of partnership, you bring collaboration with you. Those who responded, they bring honesty. Those who responded, they brought dedication. They brought commitment. Those who responded, they brought hard work. But some people are only there, but they're not actually responding to the calling of partnership. Lastly, with these two, what they reported is that their cultural backgrounds may be different, but they're both very committed emotionally to each other. So their wedding wasn't just about like wearing a beautiful dress. For them, it was purposeful. It was a spiritual calling. It was a blend of tradition, a blend of testimonies, meaning experiences, difficult experiences that they've had to go through to be able to get to this point. And it was really a celebration of how emotional healing and cultural identity, when you allow it to be expressed authentically, how that can bring love into your life. So their love story is not like a storybook story. It's a story of like reckoning with the fact that marriage is hard, relationships are hard because life is hard. And, you know, because life is hard, we all have emotional pain that we need to deal with. We all have spiritual issues that we need to deal with. You know, we have time management issues, work issues, you know, health issues. Even when the love is real, there's still all these other things that we have to deal with. And people that are successful in marriage don't pretend that life is easy. And because you know life is not easy, you know marriage is not going to be easy. So you approach it from that standpoint. But then the flip side is they said that they trust each other. They trust that together they can navigate any and everything that comes towards them with grace and grit. Okay? So that's a little bit about them and their story. Their story is really a beautiful story of love and faith, as well as healing, and how that can bring two souls together to build a life together. Now I'm going to transition to look at their astrology natal chart. First, I'm going to give you their placements, and then I'm going to do an apples to apples comparison. If you want to have your own astrology reading with me, you can go to intuitivehealing.com to schedule your couples analysis. I want you to know that when I do your reading, I'm not going to be doing a apples to apples comparison. I will be doing that in addition to a cross comparison between placements. But for the sake of this video, I'm keeping it at an apples to apples comparison just to help you guys understand the different energies that each placement carries, because each placement has its own needs and presentation in astrology. Okay, somebody said Megan Good is Megan Good, but she's a beauty now. Yeah, Megan Good is a stunner. That woman has been gorgeous her whole life. I remember when I was first coming out as a lesbian, being enamored with that woman. Just like breathtaking. Like, how are you naturally this beautiful? Like, she just looks, there aren't even any words. And now she's older, right? I believe she's in her 40s now, but she still looks good. Like, Megan Good is just flawless, period. So obviously her her looks was not the issue in their marriage, obviously, right? Sometimes you can be the most gorgeous woman in the world and you can be matched up with the wrong person, or sometimes it's not that it's the wrong person, it's that it's the wrong person for the journey that you're on. One of the things that Devon Franklin, her ex-husband, said about their marriage is that he believes that the marriage served the purpose that it meant to serve, meaning that ideally, all of us want to be married to the same person until we die, but some love stories are not about that. Some love stories are about lessons that need to be learned through that person. And once you've learned the lesson, it's time to release that attachment and move on so you can meet the person that God has assigned for you, or the universe, or whatever you want to believe in. I believe love is deeply spiritual. I believe love is magical. I don't think you can force yourself to love anyone, and I don't think anyone can force themselves to love you. I think there's something deeply spiritual that happens when people fall in love. And for those of you who have ever dated a lot of people, you probably know what I'm talking about. You can meet somebody that has all the things you're looking for on paper, but then you start speaking to them and it's just not there, or the connection is not there. You just don't feel good, or you just don't like them. Like, there's always something annoying that you can find that makes you not like somebody, even though they have all the things you like. This is how I know that love is from God, because for some reason you're going to see somebody that has like all these flaws and you just can't shake them out of your system. Like, you feel deeply bonded to them, and sometimes that bond isn't for a lifetime. Sometimes it's for a reason. And sometimes it's for a season. And what he said is he believes his marriage to Megan Good was for a season. And they both had learned the lessons that needed to be learned, and that's why he wasn't happy anymore. And he didn't want to keep pretending that he was happy when he wasn't happy. And that's why he asked for the divorce. She was very devastated. According to reports, she said she was devastated when he reached out to her about divorcing her. But now that she's older, she understands why, and she's very grateful for the experience that the two of them have had together. So my belief system personally is that love is never a waste. Whether it lasts a month or a year or 10 years or 50 years, it's a gift. It's a gift from God, because not everybody gets to feel loved. So if you've had an opportunity to feel that with somebody, share that with somebody, even if it doesn't last forever, like, how lucky are you that you know what that feels like? Because not everybody can say that. So that's just my personal belief about love. Okay, so now let me move on to their chart. Devon Franklin is an Aries sun. She is a Leo sun. He's a Cancer moon. She's an Aries moon. Ooh, beautiful synastry here with her moon to his sun. He's a Mercury in Aries. She's a Virgo Mercury. She's very smart. He's a Taurus Venus. She's a Cancer Venus. Ooh, very compatible there. He is a Mars in Leo. She's a Mars in Taurus. He has Jupiter in Cancer. She has her Jupiter in Cancer as well. Ooh, okay. He has Saturn in Leo. She has Capricorn as Saturn. She's a super karmic. He has Uranus in Scorpio. She has Capricorn or Scorpio. Okay, karmic energy here again. Neptune at Sagittarius for him. Capricorn Neptune for her. Pluto in Libra for him. Pluto in Scorpio for her. Her north node is in Libra. His north node is in Libra. Hers is in Aquarius. His Lilith is in Cancer. Hers is in Sagittarius. His Chiron is in Taurus. Hers is in Cancer. Let's go over what stands out to me right away before we go into the side-by-side comparison. So Aries and Leo are highly compatible in astrology. They're both fire signs, so that's perfect. Us fire signs, you know, I'm a Sagittarius sun, those of you that are new here. Us fire signs, we don't like to fake the funk. Like, if we like you, we like you. If we don't like you, we don't like you. And we don't know why we should have to pretend to like you. We don't marry people just because we want to be married, okay? When a Leo or a Sagittarius gets married and an Aries gets married, is because their whole heart and soul is into it. We take passion very seriously. That is our religion, okay? We don't fake the funk. We don't fake the fire. It's there or it's not there. So the fact that he's 46 and she's 29 and they're standing here this smiley means whatever they've got going on between the two of them, it's working for them and they're very happy with it. Aries moon, though, I will say, is a zodiac placement that likes to dive into relationships fast, but they were dating for a year before they got engaged and then got married a year later. So I'm hoping that 2 years was enough for her to figure things out, because typically Aries moon does not like to read the fine prints on their love relationship. They're the ones that are the most likely to believe in love at first sight. Them and Pisces moon, those people believe in love at first sight. Oftentimes when they're in their low vibrational, unhealthy state, they think just because they feel the passion, they feel the chemistry, that's how it's always going to be. And they don't take the time to really study the person and make sure that this energy is here to stay and that it's compatible with them. So that's the only thing with Aries moon. But because they were together for 2 years and scientifically we know after the first year the hormones wear off, that means they spent the last year before getting married without those hormones and they still decided to get married. So clearly, you know, she was able to move past just the initial attraction. Okay. Mercury in Aries and Mercury in Virgo are not compatible by nature. Venus in Taurus and Venus in Cancer is like a gold mine of love relationships. This is where they're really lucked out in their chart, is Taurus and Cancer. I get the sense that this man, you know, married this younger woman because he wants to have children. You know, like he's 46, she's 29. He didn't have children with Megan. I don't know if they wanted children or didn't want children, but that's just what I suspect. And with those Venus placements, Taurus and Cancer, that's like perfect placement for having children if that's what they wanted to do. Because that's homey vibes here. In terms of sexual chemistry, he's Leo Mars, she's Taurus Mars. As far as abundance, hers is in the home, his is in the home because they both have it in Cancer. In terms of discipline, him is in Leo, hers is in Capricorn. Which is Saturn. In terms of Uranus, which is progress, his is in Scorpio, which is spiritual hygiene, self-control, spirituality. Hers is in Capricorn. And then Neptune, his is in Sagittarius, which is about the planet of dreams. So his career is probably going to take off now that he's married. And hers is in Capricorn. You know, she's going to have to endure a lot of things in this marriage. I can already see that just by looking at these placements because she has Capricorn, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Capricorn means hard work. Wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, that's where you're going to have to work the hardest. And if you stay the course, you'll be compensated for it, but you're going to have to stay the course and it's not going to be easy. Okay? Wherever you have Capricorn, it's not going to be easy. So her having that Saturn in Capricorn, Uranus in Capricorn and Neptune in Capricorn, she's going to have to work hard for this marriage. And she also has her Pluto in Scorpio, which is another karmic placement. So that's very interesting. She's going to have to make more sacrifices than he will have to. His Saturn is in Leo. His Uranus is in Scorpio. His Neptune is in Sagittarius, and Pluto is in Libra. Okay. So far so good. I'm not alarmed by anything except the moon stuff, but I already talked about it. We can get into the side-by-side comparison in a few. First, let me go over their nodes, okay? She has North Node in Aquarius. Okay, now this is very interesting. This is very interesting because it's at the Virgo degree, okay? And she has Mercury in Virgo. All right. And he has his North Node in Libra. So marriage is where he thrives. He's actually meant to be somebody's husband. He's not supposed to be single. When he's doing things right, he's actually like staying in a marriage because he does better in partnership. And he has that at the 5th degree. So he's supposed to marry somebody very publicly and also marry someone who's a little bit famous. I believe Maria Catillo, yeah, she's a singer from Costa Rica. And she's known for her contribution to Latin American music, okay? She ended up being the runner-up to some show. She lost to Margarita Henriquez. She has a debut album that was released in 2008. It sounds like she has a lot of music out. So this is the thing about astrology. When you see 5th or 29th degree, that's a degree of fame in astrology. Okay, so somebody that has their North Node in Libra at the 5th degree, at the fame degree, is somebody that's going to marry a famous person. So she may not be as famous here in America, but obviously she's very famous in Latin America. So he married a famous person. So he's definitely doing what he's supposed to do. He's Lilith in Cancer. Lilith is the energy that makes us feel ostracized. It's the energy that we're rejected for. So he's a very nurturing and loving man. And a lot of that comes from his relationship with his mother. And I suspect that a lot of women see him as soft, like as too feminine. So a lot of women were probably not interested in dating him because they saw him as too feminine. You know, typically a lot of black women, and this is kind of a general term, you know, black women, don't kill me for this, but this is something that I have seen myself in the community. Black women typically like their men to be very dominant, very strong. And the black guys that don't really embody that kind of energy, they get kind of pushed to the side when it comes to like getting married and mating, you know? So his Lilith is in Cancer, makes him a very sensitive man. This guy is going to be a perfect like girl dad. You know, if they decide to have children, I pray they get blessed with a girl, because Lilith in Cancer is beautiful girl dad energy. Because Lilith in Cancer were children that were emotionally abandoned and rejected emotionally by their mothers. So usually these people grow up to be adults that are very sensitive, but they're also very starved for emotional companionship, emotional intimacy, you know, emotional love, emotional support. And girls have a really good way of pulling that out of men. Okay. Chiron, Chiron is in Taurus, and hers is in Cancer. So I hope she doesn't end up having issues with having children, because Chiron in Cancer speaks to a wound of motherhood. And the reason why that stands out to me is because she has her North Node in Aquarius, and North Node in Aquarius is a woman or that may have some issues with fitting into the traditional mold, okay? Because Aquarius is anti. Aquarius is a very different energy than what's typical. Aquarius is the opposite of what's typical. You know, women that have a lot of Aquarius energy in their chart, they're women that don't fit in. They're women that are weird, that are different. So her having her North Node in Aquarius speaks to her going on a journey that is unusual, on a journey where she has to celebrate her independence. So it's less about being the wife of somebody. This energy is usually more aligned with a woman that is independent, a woman that is single, a woman that is focused on her own self and her own well-being, a woman that is focused on her own elevation, her own transformation. So this placement speaks really to a woman that is not into these like traditional gender roles, okay? So her being from Costa Rica and marrying this girl, marrying this guy that's a preacher, or used to be a preacher, I'm not sure if he's still a preacher. I wonder if there's going to be an expectation for her to fall into these traditional, roles that may not necessarily agree with her life's purpose. The other thing is Lilith in Sagittarius is a placement of somebody whose religion or relationship with religion and spirituality is going to be different from most people. So I don't know, like, I hope he's not trying to force her into, and I don't mean that in an aggressive way. I mean that in a covert way. I hope he's not trying to manipulate like her relationship with God, with divinity, with the universe, with spirituality. Being from Costa Rica, she probably does have, a tad bit of traditional ways of relating to spirituality, as well as maybe Western ways. But because he used to be a minister, I don't know if he's going to have issues with like how she does, religion or spirituality in general. But this zodiac sign is somebody that eventually breaks out from like the religion that they grew up with, or the religion or spirituality that most people in their environment is comfortable with, and goes into another bucket. Because Sagittarius is a bit of a rebellious soul, much like Aquarius rising. And then Chiron, as I mentioned before, is about the mother energy. So usually Chiron in Cancer, Lilith in Cancer, are women who end up having difficulty with mothering. Like with mothering, whether it's they don't have children, or they can't have children, or they're not interested in having children, or they don't like their female bodies, or they really struggle to be comfortable with their size. There's always like issues with femininity with this zodiac placement. So because she's naturally stunning, that's why I went to the health issue, because North Node in Aquarius at the 6th degree is health issues. It's Virgo issues. Wherever you have Virgo, that's where there's health issues, by the way. So look to see where you have Virgo in your chart, and that's where you will find most of your health issues hidden. So we'll just have to wait to see how this plays out. But whatever happens, again with Aquarius energy, it's really about thinking outside the box. If they both want to have children and they're not able to biologically have them, they can always adopt. Well, they can always use a surrogate. There's lots of different ways to become a parent. But I suspect here that if the goal, if him being 46, marrying this 29-year-old was to get pregnant, I think there might be a little bit of a challenge with that based on what's going on with her astrology natal chart. Okay. Now let me share some of the side-by-side comparison that I have in terms of their zodiac placements. Let's see. So Aries Sun and Leo Sun are compatible. These are both fire signs. Aries is impulsive. They usually get things started. And Leo is the workhorse of the zodiac. So Leo is going to finish what Aries starts. Aries is easily bored. They want constant emotional reassurance, especially at the moon. I always say Aries moon, they need to marry somebody who is both like a therapist as well as like a partner in crime. Aries moon is somebody that needs, stimulation in their relationship on all levels. They want someone that's very active and someone that's also going to be very supportive of them emotionally, because Aries moon is a very moody zodiac placement, and they don't do as well with people who are not emotionally available to them, because when they're having a crisis, they feel like everything needs to stop, like you need to drop everything to come respond to it right away. So Aries wants constant newness. They want constant attention. They're always burning for the next thing. They want life to feel exciting. They don't want life to feel boring. The only issue with the Aries and the Leo together is that sometimes they can have power struggles, because Leo is a leader, but Aries is the one with the natural leadership abilities, because Aries is a cardinal zodiac sign, and all cardinal zodiac signs have natural leadership abilities. So Aries is going to want to take control of the relationship, and honestly, they're going to be better at it than Leo. But Leo has a big ego, and Leo loves the spotlight. So Leo's going to feel like Aries is trying to steal the spotlight from them, and Aries is trying to boss them around. So that's something they're going to have to watch out for. Now, Cancer moon and Aries moon are not compatible, okay? Because when zodiac signs have the same quality, meaning when two cardinal zodiac signs get together, it's just not a good mix, okay? Because they both want to lead. Cancer moon want nurturing, they want protection, they want emotional safety. Aries moon wants aggression, quick reaction. They don't care for emotional safety. They want raw, emotional reactions. So this can be an emotional clash, where Cancer moon may be clingy and Aries moon may not necessarily be interested in Cancer moon clinging to them, okay? Cancer wants to be soothed. Aries wants action. Aries moon also, when they're upset, they can go from 0 to 100 very, very fast. And this is exactly the issue with the Aries and Scorpion relationship. Somebody said they're Cancer and Scorpio together. Yeah, Aries and Scorpio relationship, that's the issue, because it's too much fire, okay? It's too much fire. It's too much fire. It's too much leadership. It's too much action. Like, calm down. Relax, okay? And so, yeah, at the moon, they're going to have some emotional issues in that relationship, is exactly what I'm trying to say. Regarding communication, they're going to frustrate each other because Aries sees Virgo as nitpicky, okay? And Virgo sees Aries as somebody that is thoughtless. Communication style is going to be an issue because Aries likes to say what's on their mind, and they like to say it brutally for the added impact. Aries likes aggression. Aries likes violence. Aries loves confrontation. Remember, Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of destruction. So Aries doesn't want peace when they're communicating. They want war. And to Aries, war is how you build intimacy in the relationship. If you're in a relationship with the Aries, they will roast you just for fun. They will call you mean names. They will call you mean names that are funny, just for fun. If you don't have a tough skin, you're going to see them as being mean, but they're not actually being mean. They're flirting. And I know it doesn't make sense, but it's the truth, okay? To Aries, aggression is flirting. And to people who are not Aries, aggression is violent, and it feels unsafe. So Virgo has a strong need for order. Virgo likes to be precise. They like to be meticulous. Virgo likes to be critical. Virgo thinks about what they're going to say before they say it. Remember, Mercury is exalted at Virgo. So Virgo is the best communicator of the zodiac. So for Virgo to be paired up with somebody who's this careless with their words, which is Aries Mercury, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful emotionally. They're going to have to learn to laugh things off and to not take things so seriously when they're running to these power struggles. Okay? Venus to Venus, Taurus Venus loves stability. They love feeling good, eating good food, being at home, relaxing. Slow and steady is what Taurus Venus is all about. And Mars Venus, they like bold. They like dramatic. They like expressive. They like colorful. They like fun. They like wild. So, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Leo Venus. I meant Leo Mars. Let me go back to Cancer Venus, though, before I get back to Leo Mars. So he has a Cancer Venus, okay? Their Venus placement is actually where they match really well together because Taurus Venus and Cancer Venus are soulmates in astrology, okay? Taurus loves stability. Taurus loves good food. Taurus loves affection. Taurus loves steady relationships. Taurus loves predictability in relationship. And Cancer wants safety in the home, safety in their emotional connection. This is a very domesticated bond. This is the gold mine of marriage. Cancer Venus, Taurus Venus. Gold mine of marriage. It doesn't get better than that, bond. This is the gold mine of marriage. Cancer Venus, Taurus Venus. Gold mine of marriage. It doesn't get better than that, One second. One second. All right, let's try this again. So the emotional tone here is slightly different because, you know, Taurus is grounded and tends to be more stubborn, and Cancer is more of the leader in that relationship, and it tends to be more emotionally expressive, you know. So I think together, this is where they're going to find a lot of the pleasure in the marriage. It's in their Venus placements, okay? Now, moving on to Mars, which is where I was jumping earlier. Mars in Virgo is expressive. It's dramatic. It likes to put on a show. It wants to be worshipped. It wants to be admired. Mars in Taurus is more subdued. It's more steady. It's more stubborn. It's a little bit quieter. When fixed signs get together at the same placement, there's going to be issues because they're both set in their ways. So when it's time to resolve conflict, which is what we use our Mars placements for, we use it for creativity, we use it for sexual chemistry, we use it for problem solving in a marriage. Okay? So when you have two Mars placements that are part of the same quality, both of them, especially if they're fixed, are going to be inflexible. Okay? So Leo wants to move quickly, and they want to take over space with their big feelings and express everything, and they want to dominate everything. And Taurus is going to stonewall you to death whenever Taurus feels like they're not being heard. So that can lead to tension in the relationship. And this kind of tension requires people to go deeper inside their emotions to find a solution. Depending on their level of maturity, they may not be willing to do that work. But this is what's going to be required. Because when you're both fixed, or you're both leaders, or you're both philosophers, you have to take turns. Because nobody wants to give up their opinion to absorb the other. And that's what marriage is about. It's about being flexible. Moving on to Jupiter. Jupiter is how we get lucky in astrology. They both have the same Jupiter, which I think is very beautiful. So they share optimism about family, about emotional connections. They both love feeling secure in their relationship. They both love a close-knit bond. They both love being optimistic about, you know, the intimate aspects of their lives. This is why I think they might be trying to start a family together, because their Jupiters are both in Cancer, which is a zodiac sign of the mother, okay? Moving on to their Saturn, which is their karma in this life. Saturn in Leo wants to get their respect from being famous. Saturn in Capricorn wants to get their respect from working hard over a long period of time. This can be a little bit of a misalignment between these two because one is concerned with legacy and the other is concerned with being approved of. You know, Saturn in Leo wants people to clap for them. In order for people to clap for you, you have to give the people what they want, which means you need to conform to the needs of the institution. You need to conform to the needs of the populace. Saturn in Capricorn isn't here to get the applause. They're here to demonstrate that they can stay in the fight the longest. And that type of drive doesn't really care about the applause because they know the applause don't come until much later, because Saturn in Capricorn doesn't get what they want until much later. So there may be a little bit of a challenge here with these two in terms of like their relationship with discipline. Saturn in Capricorn is going to be a lot more disciplined and a lot more hardworking than Saturn in Leo. And that's not to say Saturn in Leo won't work hard. It's just Saturn in Capricorn is going to be more willing to be uncomfortable than Saturn in Leo, okay? Uranus in Scorpio and Uranus in Capricorn is a beautiful blend here for the two of them. Neptune in Sagittarius and Neptune in Capricorn, that can create like a lot of fun with some structure. Pluto in Libra and Pluto in Scorpio, you know, very different generations. Obviously, he's 46, she's 29. Hopefully, they're both willing to learn and teach each other. Either way, this Pluto has some karmic significance because Libra is exalted as Saturn, the planet of karma, and Pluto in Scorpio is a very karmic placement, much like Saturn in Capricorn. You know, this girl is very karmic-y. However he handles this girl, his blessings or his curses are going to come from that, from how he handles her. So I hope he handles her well and fairly, because when you don't treat karmics fairly, you get punished, okay? Libra North Node, trine by sign, with her being Aquarius North Node, these two were brought together spiritually for the sake of helping each other develop. These two are on a soulmate journey, okay? So the bond that they share is around their ideas. They're able to, be flexible, it looks like, to be able to achieve like a heightened state of awareness about themselves and their position in the world. His Cancer Lilith and her Sagittarius Lilith are very different, but either way, there's a lot of raw emotion here. Sagittarius is all about independence and Cancer is all about security. So it's a little bit of a mismatch. But again, relationships is not about forcing other people to be like you, but rather stretching your bandwidth so you can make room for other ways of existing. She was rejected for wanting to have fun, for wanting to be free, for wanting to leave her country and pursue fame, and entertainment. And he was rejected for being too sensitive. Hopefully they can create an emotionally safe place for each other, especially since their Venus are in harmony in North Node, where they can heal some of that rejection. Speaking of healing, his Chiron is in Taurus, so he's here to heal his relationship with material possessions, and hers is in Cancer, which is about healing her relationship with emotional intimacy, security, emotional safety, okay? So that's pretty much where they are. So their strongest flow is Sun trine Sun, because they're both fire signs, okay? They share that Jupiter and Cancer, so their relationships are very deep and they're very emotionally connected to each other. They have this beautiful Earth and Water Venus chemistry between Taurus and Cancer, which are soulmates in astrology. The points of friction for them is that moon placement, okay? It's a strong emotional mismatch because the moon is how we express our feelings, When people are not able to hear the other person's way of expressing feelings and make room for it, it can be very difficult, especially when we're having a hard time seeing eye to eye, okay? The other area that's an issue for them is communication. Aries and Virgo is a mismatch. And then lastly, Mars, which is all about problem solving in the relationship. There's going to be some tension here, between Leo and Taurus, because both of them are fixed signs. There's some life path harmony here because their north nodes are in harmony. The Saturn, quinsux Saturn, means that the way you grow up in this relationship is basically about you maturing. So both of them are going to have to do some maturing, and maturing means exercising some self-control, taking responsibility for your life, being accountable for your successes and your mistakes, and being committed to the path. So what's going to be required, even though they're both very attracted to each other, and the relationship is going very smoothly, what's going to be required is for them to continue being committed to working on it when it comes to validating each other's emotions, being kind with each other's feelings, respecting each other's boundaries, emotional boundaries specifically, and being mindful of how they communicate with each other so they're continuously feeling safe in that companionship. If they don't take the care that they need to protect each other's emotions and to communicate with each other with respect and kindness and love, this relationship doesn't stand a chance, because this is where they can create the most wounds for each other. And as you know, in relationships, woundedness is one of the things that brings separation. And when that separation is established from woundedness, the couples that succeed are those that are able to quickly recognize that they've wounded their partner and then to engage now in the work of healing so that the relationship can continue to grow and repair from there. Okay? So that was the astrology chart reading of Devon Franklin and his new wife from Costa Rica, Maria Catillo. I wish them a million years of happiness together. Thanks, guys, for coming to hang out with me on this live. I'll catch up with you next Sunday for an astrology love reading. And don't forget to catch up with me on Wednesday at 3 p.m. for an astrology Q&A. During those sessions, you can ask me your astrology question, and I will answer them. For a reading, go to intuitivehealing.com to schedule it. Link in bio to listen to the Aquarius podcast for your latest horoscope. And you can check out all my free content on YouTube at Styled Under Virgo for health and wellness, styled under Libra for love and relationships, my main YouTube channel at Intuitive Healing with an N, and of course at the Aquarius Podcast for your horoscopes. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for all the gifts. Thanks for all the love. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye. You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius Podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.